Karma Wrestling. This is GKW. I'm Gabe Neitzel along with Brian Rowitz and Jay Hood. Special show this week as we approach the end of the year. We have our best of interviews and a lot of really good ones to get to. And we start with Jeff Cobb, who was our first guest and didn't want to leave. He was having such a good time. He did not want to leave GKW. He had just, when he joined the show, it was shortly before Forbidden Door, the highly anticipated AEW New Japan show in the middle of the year. And he had just won the IWGP Tag Team titles. And we asked him if he anticipated being on that Forbidden Door card.
I would assume so. I've been tagged a lot in social media stuff about saying like FTR should put up the Ring of Honor tag champions against us. We should put up our IWGP tag champions against them. And then Roppongi Vice gets thrown in the mix somehow. I haven't been given official word, but I'm going to give you guys a little spoiler. It doesn't matter who it is because they're going to get their ass whipped to myself and the Great O'Khan. It's as simple as that.
Okay, I'm writing that down right now. So, Jeff, I need to find out from you because we've seen your career being part of New Japan and being part of that strong style. What was your initial reaction to being in New Japan and the type of wrestling that they have? How were you able to adjust?
Well, it was definitely a big difference coming from mainly doing indies to my first tour of New Japan. Up into, I think it was 2017 Tag League was my first I guess tour with New Japan. And up until that point, pretty much I was just doing indies every weekend, like 3-4 shows a week. Just trying to get my name out there and trying to get more notoriety behind myself. And it was definitely a very humbling learning experience going to that style. I've loved that style since I watched the old UWFI, the old All Japan, some of the old New Japan stuff, like just the Japanese style. It's a beautiful form of professional wrestling, and I just love that style, like the hard hitting style. That's definitely, if you've seen some of my matches, that's definitely my style. And I tend to veer more towards that now, just because I do it all the time and I just love it.
From a wrestling standpoint, obviously it might be a little different with you involved in it. How fun is it to be part of something like Forbidden Door and get New Japan in front of some different eyes and get AEW in front of some different eyes as well?
I think it's a good joint mutual thing that we're doing. Like you did mention, there's a lot of AEW fans. A lot of them do follow pretty much every art, every form of professional wrestling. But then there's also a portion that doesn't know Japanese wrestling too well, whether it be any Japanese wrestling or let alone New Japan. And then the same goes and vice versa. There's a lot of fans that are in Japan specifically that are just huge New Japan fans or huge Japanese wrestling fans that don't know the American side of it, except with the exception of WWE. So it's good to have that nice crossover. It's like a cross promotion, and I'm liking the fact that it is getting eyes on both products on both sides of the world.
So New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, Forbidden Door is coming up Sunday, June 26th, but so many other New Japan Pro Wrestling events to keep an eye out for as well. If you're in Los Angeles, Ignition taping happening on June 19th. If you're in Charlotte, July 24th, High Alert is going to be happening there. In your career, Jeff, you're also a part of Ring of Honor. You're a former world television champion for Ring of Honor. So when they decided to kind of shut everything down, were you glad that it eventually found a home and that Ring of Honor is going to be continuing at least with pay-per-views in the meantime, and that legacy is going to continue?
Definitely. Ring of Honor played a huge part in my career. I had a good, nice year and a half run with them. And, I got to meet and learn from some of the best minds in the wrestling business. Guys like Delirious and Jay Lethal, learning from them, because when you think of Ring of Honor, Jay Lethal is definitely ranked. You could put him in your Mount Rushmore of Ring of Honor if you want. Some people do, and just learning from him was such a fun time. And and even before my time in Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor definitely played a huge factor in like professional wrestling as a whole. They had some of the best matches that I've witnessed, not firsthand, but like through DVDs and the streaming service and whatnot. So I'm happy that Ring of Honor has a platform that they can showcase some of the newer stars, and at the same token, hopefully we'll be able to see some of the old stuff as well. So, I mean, if it's a streaming service, and that'd be great, because I'd love to go back and watch some of the classic matches of Ring of Honor.
Jeff, who is your best friend in the business? You got a lot of travels up and down the roads in the Indies and also in New Japan, Ring of Honor. Who's your guy in the business that you like to talk to, that you rely on, kind of lean on?
I think it kind of changes throughout. I guess it depends on where I'm at or where I spend most of my time. When I was starting out in like Bay or California area, I mean, when I was starting off in Hawaii, I had my little circle of buddies out there that I still talk to this day. When I moved out to like the West Coast, California, I did a lot of traveling with JR Kratos, who's on New Japan Strong, as well as Timothy Thatcher, who was with NXT, and then now he's with I don't know how long he's with, but he just debuted on Noah. So those are my those two, and also Dave Dutra. Like those three were like my riding buddies. Like we would always go up and down California from Sacramento, drive 6 hours to LA, do a show, turn around, right back, and then I had a day job at the time, so we'd do it on a Sunday morning, leave at like 6 a.m., drive down there, do a couple of shows, turn around, drive right back Sunday night, get back around 2 a.m. and then go to work the next day. But thank God I don't have to do that anymore. But those were good times. And then and then when you go over to like New Japan, you tend to kind of float towards the other gaijins, if you will. So it just all depends on the setting. But I still have my good friends to this day where if we don't contact on a daily or a weekly, whether it be monthly, it's still like there's no time has passed. So yeah, I mean, I still got a good core group. I won't say who it is now because that's just for office purposes. I won't say that, but yeah.
Oh man, you're with the homies at GKW. You can say it. You're not gonna break the news here. No one's listening. It's just us.
I mean, I'll let you guys know as soon as when we get off the air. Like, but yeah,
unbelievable. Kayfabe to the end.
In terms of wrestling, Jeff, your style is so unique. Just your size, your speed. It's not something you often see from guys. Who are some of the guys that you watch either coming up or when you were learning that you said, "Hey, this is something I sort of want to be like in the ring"?
Well, when I was younger, I mean, I loved like Hulk Hogan got me into wrestling.
Okay.
As I got a little bit older and closer to start training, I definitely loved the way that Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig used to just, do everything, like wrestling, selling, just moveset. Like he was really cool. So like early on in my career, like if you find some old Hawaii stuff, I did a lot of Kurt Hennig stuff. With a little mixture of Kurt Angle and Taz as well. So those were the three. And then when I moved to California, my trainer out there mentioned you should check out like Gary Albright stuff, some Japan Vader, where you're just like clocking these fools in the head. So he's like, yeah, watch those. I'm like, well, I don't really want to be doing that. But definitely like Gary Albright was somebody that was really cool because he was another bigger dude, but he had an amateur wrestling background, a very, very, very prolific amateur wrestling background, and he was just suplexing fools left and right. And I saw that and I was like, that dude's cool, man.
So, Jeff, I've mentioned you're one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champs. You are a former ROH World Television Champ, former Never Openweight Champ in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. You've had a lot of great experiences. What else is left on the list? What other dream matches do you have, opponents you want to face?
Oh, on a selfish level, I definitely want to face Shingo Takagi again. Um, a lot of people liked our match from 2020's Wrestle Kingdom. He said a lot of people said it was just like big meaty men hitting each other, which was true. But
Right.
it was for the Never Open Championship, which I wanted back. Unfortunately, I came out on the short end that night, but I definitely want to fight him again. And with the G1 coming up, which is pretty cool because they announced some of the actually they announced the whole field, and looking at it, there's some new guys that are coming in that I haven't had a chance to fight in the New Japan ring. As soon as the card was announced, I already got tagged in a ton of stuff, and everybody's like, "Well, we want to see you and Jonah wrestle in the New Japan ring." And there's been a few teases on some of the New Japan Strong stuff, and I don't make the blocks, so but the only thing is I mean hopefully if we're not in the same block, then I guess we'd have to fight in the finals. And if you remember last year, I went 8-0 in the G1, and but although Okada did beat me in the final day, that's another one that I want to run back again. I need another match with Okada.
Jeff, for those that have not seen this, could you tell everybody about the experience of being in Japan, in which that wrestling's front page news, just like baseball is in that country, where you have all the media that's covering it like it's the NBA Finals or like any other sport in America? Can you just give us context of what that's like, the coverage of Japan for what you guys do?
It's great because we have support from not just wrestling magazines, but also from mainstream media, whether that be TV shows, the news. In fact, on my flight about 2 days ago from Japan to St. Louis for AEW Dynamite last night, on the flight there, they had New Japan as one of the choices you could watch on one of the TV shows. It wasn't a live one, but it was from a few months ago, and it was pretty cool. Like a couple months prior to that, I just so happened to look on the TV on one of my flights that I was taking, and it was myself and Okada from the Tokyo Dome. So I mean, it was cool to see. So that's when you have the support of not just the wrestling niche, the little bubble of wrestling magazines or online wrestling articles, when you have the support of newspapers and TV shows and Japan Airlines, a big airlines in Japan, then you're doing something right, where they're seeing it not just from an entertainment standpoint, but from a sports perspective as well. And I really appreciate that, and I love that. I love that aspect of it, of being in Japan for that reason.
You've mentioned social media a couple times, people tagging you, wanting to face FTR, wanting to face Jonah. We talk about the negativity on social media a lot, but what are some of the positives from your perspective as a wrestler to having social media and fans having such access to you?
I mean, it's definitely pros and cons. I mean, definitely the pros is you get to meet a lot of people that you sometimes wouldn't meet on your shows alone. I mean, there's a ton of like New Japan fans that aren't in just mainland or in America and Japan. You've got some people from like Asia, from Europe, that you don't get to see on a regular, but you can still interact with them, and you can still, they could still reach out to you and send you, whether it's a positive or negative message. And usually, and I'm very grateful and thankful that a majority of them are positive messages. Usually the negative ones, I kind of just don't even bother with that. Because it can be a very toxic place, and then you just go down this rabbit hole of arguing with somebody online, and that's kind of silly. So, I mean, I got better stuff to do in my day. I don't want to be yelling at somebody
Exactly
across the world, who could be real, who could be not, who has in their profile picture is Sasha Banks. So am I arguing with Sasha Banks? No, I'm arguing with somebody. So, like those kind of things, I try not to get sucked into the negative side. I love to focus on the positive side, and just hearing from like fans from where I don't, unfortunately, if a fan from Portugal messages me or sends me, like, tags me in something, the chances of us meeting are very, very rare. But in that brief interaction, if I can give that person some sort of positivity, then and I'm all for it.
New Japan Pro Wrestling coming up, Los Angeles, June 19th. That's coming up this Sunday. Ignition, July 24th. They're going to be in Charlotte for High Alert. And, of course, Forbidden Door featuring AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, Sunday, June 26th. He is one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champions, a member of United Empire. Jeff Cobb, thank you so much for taking your time and joining GKW
Wait a minute.
tonight.
Don't be wrapping the interview, man. I got a lot of questions to ask. I don't even
Hey,
find out what's going to happen
right
at
here, this
Forbidden
one,
Door.
he hasn't got no questions in, man.
Come on, man. I got all these questions. Oh, 50th State Wrestling in Hawaii.
If we have time.
I mean, oh, man.
You can get some rest. Enjoy your night, Jeff. You can get some rest. You travel a lot.
Hey, I'm all your guy. I'm all yours until you tell me to get off the air. So,
Well, here, let's throw one out. I got one more. It's part of the 3 count. Tomorrow night on SmackDown, a guy you've held tag team titles with, Matt Riddle, competing for a world title. Is Matt Riddle going to be a world champion tomorrow night?
you know what? That was my tag partner. We were tag champs at PWG. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm not a betting man, but I mean, that fool can go in the ring. So I'm gonna go with the new champ.
Okay, look at that.
There you go.
Breaking
Wow.
news.
Calling for a new champ.
Yeah, man. And good for him, too. If that's the case, at least he's in the mix. That's what I like, Jeff, that he's in the mix. He's worked hard. He's on a nice platform. Hopefully it works for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I always support my friends, and regardless if we're on the same company or a different company, it doesn't matter. That he's my boy. I'm gonna support him no matter what.
Hoodie, you have, is that the last one? I know you've got the legal pad.
Yeah,
All right.
Jeff's gonna come on with this again, and I'm gonna hit him with the 50th States Wrestling and the Rock's mom. We'll talk about Hawaii wrestling. We got a lot to talk about, man. That's all right. Jeff, next time we'll get to all this stuff in the bottom margin here. We'll get to all that stuff.
Or why don't we give you at least one? At least one.
There you go. Come on, we'll get one
There
more
we
out.
go. One more. Throw one more at him, J Hood.
Oh, okay. Well, I do want to ask about wrestling in Hawaii, in that scene. I do have a book in my library down the hall here about 50th States Wrestling and how important it was for the state, Rocky Maivaia's, the Rock, his mom, running the organization. What do you know about that, and what's the wrestling scene in Hawaii?
Is that the one that was written by Ed Francis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Ed Francis. Yes.
When he, it's a funny story. When that book was published, myself and one of my other friends in the Hawaii wrestling scene, we were at the grand debut of it at a luncheon. So I got to meet Ed Francis, and Russ Francis came down. So it was pretty cool to see them. Me personally, I didn't know too much about the Hawaii scene when I was younger, just for the fact that I only knew WWF. And then whenever I went to the store, I would buy WWF magazines. And then at the same time, I would also buy like Insider Wrestling or PWI, anything I could find that was wrestling, like I would spend my money on, and I would just buy them. So I would read about things, but I didn't know about the local scene when I was younger. My first interaction with the local scene was in, I'll say like 2000, when I moved back to Hawaii after I graduated high school. And I saw that they had there was an NWA affiliate at the time. It was NWA Hawaii. And they had a local show on like public access or something. And I would catch it every now and then. And then because of that, I wanted to start training wrestling right out of high school. At the time, it was a guy named Lars Anderson was running the training, and he wanted $3,000, and I had to pay it in full. And I was like, I'm just an 18-year-old kid out of I was 17 at the time. I was a 17-year-old kid out of high school. I don't have $3,000 to my name. I don't even have $300 to my name, let alone $3,000. So that kind of just killed my dreams to be a pro wrestler in 2000. But I guess it all kind of lines up. But yeah, so throughout the years, I know from 2000 on, It was kind of in a mid to lower. It was kind of fluctuating a little bit. I know with that NWA affiliate, they brought in guys like Chono and Liger and really, really big names. They brought in Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. So they had some big names coming into Hawaii. They didn't really advertise too well. So these shows had these big names, but they only had maybe 200 people. So it was kind of rough. When I started training in 2000, at the beginning of 2009, there were 2 companies in Hawaii. There was the one that I stuck with, and then there was also still that NWA affiliate kind of sort of. But that one, they were doing shows in front of nobody really. Wow. And at the time when I started training, they were in a growing phase as well. My first show where I worked security and did ring crew, we had about 15 people. So, and then it started going on an upward swing. So by the time I left Hawaii to move to the mainland USA, we're averaging 200 to 300 a show, which was a big climb. And then on our bigger shows that we did twice a year, at a nice little ballroom community center kind of thing, we do 500, 600. And we still would have good people coming through. We had a bunch of Dragon Gate guys, I know Shingo, Sema, they all came through. Dragon Gate would stop in Hawaii coming back from when they were doing Dragon Gate USA stuff. So they would stop in Hawaii for a couple of days, pick up a booking, and just relax on the beach. So that was pretty cool about that. And then as of now, there's one company in Hawaii running, and because of the pandemic, it kind of derailed they were on a good little upward swing. Interest in pro wrestling in Hawaii was coming back up. Pandemic hit, kind of killed it a little bit. So they just ran their first show last month. From what I saw and talked to people, it was a sellout. They're doing a little bit smaller arena, trying to get their feet on the ground running again. And hopefully I'll be able to make it out there for a show or two, just to kind of help and give back a little bit, and give them. I don't want to say I want to give them a rub, because that's kind of I don't want to say it like that. I don't want to sound
yes.
You don't want to say it. We can say it. You would give them a rub. You're one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champions, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I definitely want to give back and help out if I can. So if that opportunity arises and I have time in this crazy schedule, I would love to go back and help out as much as I can.
Jeff, it has been a pleasure. I, for one, really hope you find a way onto that Forbidden Door card, even though, as you said, it doesn't matter. You're going to kick some ass anyway. Doesn't matter who you're going up against. But we certainly appreciate the time. Look forward to talking to you again on GKW.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So that, again, with Jeff, that was a lot of fun. And Jay Hood, I 100% blame you for what happened with him. And again, I'm super, he had such a good time. He has the link to the show. I'm surprised he didn't randomly show up the rest of the year, but it was great to get his perspective on his entire career.
Listen, man, I was just excited about Hawaii wrestling. Just one of those. It's great. I know he's a young guy, but I was just excited. The Rock's mom was running Hawaii wrestling, so I had to ask, what's going on with Hawaii wrestling? And then he wanted to know more. He wanted to ask more. So he's always welcome on GKW. But that's a guest that would never leave, and I'm glad that he spent some time with us.
He saw your notepad and he didn't want to let you down. He said, no, let's get through that whole notepad. He didn't care how many pages are there. We could have done 3 hours that night. So you showed the notepad. So that definitely is on you that night.
Ask me another, brother. Ask me another.
We also had a great interview from back in July, and this was before he made his return to WWE, and it was a highly anticipated return. We got to talk to Johnny Wrestling. We talked to Johnny Gargano, and this was, of course, shortly after he had just had Baby Wrestling, as Baby has come to be known now. So we asked him about how fatherhood is treating him.
I'm living the dream, man. Living the dream. Every day is a new adventure. But I'm so thankful that I get this opportunity to have this time and to be able to enjoy this first 5 months of being a dad.
Well, Johnny, one thing we do know is that your bundle of joy is a heel, and we can send it all to the wrestling sheets, because your son is biting you on the nose. He knows how to break on 4 because he'll be disqualified on 5. We've
Yeah.
already seen that biting you.
Yeah,
Where did you get that from?
he bites my nose on a frequent basis. It's probably my problem. I taught him that. I always reference it as the Penguin in the Batman movie from when I was younger. But also, I would like to say he did claim another victim today as he bit Indy Hartwell's nose as well. So he's on a rampage. He's unstoppable.
I do have to imagine it must feel good, though, to be someone that's trending on social media what feels like every other week, and your body's not being put on the line that much outside of, baby interaction.
Yeah. I make the joke all the time that whenever anyone asks me, like, oh, what am I currently doing? What am I doing? And I say, I'm currently performing for Diaper Change Pro Wrestling. That's what I'm doing all the time. The majority of my days are spent changing diapers, and I wouldn't have it any other way right now. But yeah, I'm very thankful that people miss me and they want to see me again. It's a good problem to have.
Well, one of those was you got out in front of it before Forbidden Door because you happened to be in Chicago for something else the same day.
Yeah.
Were you getting a lot of inquiries about that, and that's why you felt like, okay, I actually have to get out in front of this?
I knew, and when I saw the date got announced, I was like, oh man, this is going to become a thing. As soon as I saw that, and then it kind of just became. I'm a big believer in bits and just really just committing to the bit. And I love the fact that no matter what I was doing, no matter what I was saying, people were making up their mind on what I was doing next in my life. Even though I've been very adamant about how I'm going to enjoy fatherhood, I'm going to take a couple of months off, take as long off as I need to take off that I feel like I need to mentally and physically. But it became a really fun bit to where I was like, I'm just going to tell the absolute truth of everything I'm doing this weekend. I am flying in at this time. I'm going to be there for 8 hours. And then I'm going to take a picture on the airplane and say, I'm leaving now. I'm literally on the airplane flying home. Here is my flight information. I am going. And people were still like, no. See, he wouldn't say it if he wasn't going to show up. It's all a ruse. I'm like, it's not. I literally bought because I made a joke that I'm going to get a newspaper. And they still make those, believe it or not. I was going to get a newspaper. And I was going to post a picture of me with my kid with it. And I did buy a newspaper and MCO when I landed. But I was like, I'm done. I accomplished what I needed to.
Johnny, tell us about your experience with NXT. I think all the three of us and the fans that are watching and listening really enjoyed your time at NXT. What was your experience like personally?
It was a dream come true, man. Like I was when I was younger, obviously my dream was to wrestle for WWE. A lot of us, that's our dream. We want to get to that stage. And to get a chance to go there and not only tell the stories I got a chance to tell with Tommaso and Adam Cole and Andrade, but have the matches I got a chance to have. And I mean, like for someone like me in my size, you don't look at me and I'm never the first pick overall. I'm never the guy you look at and you're like, I'm going to build my company around this guy. That's not me. But I do ultimately end up getting a foot in the door, and I kick that door down and I take that place over no matter where it is. And I got really, really lucky to be able to be in a locker room with some of the best talent in the world, some of the best coaches in the building, some of the best producers in the world, some of the best all-around people in the world. And it's a time that I'm going to remember with very fondly because, honestly, it was a time in my life.
You look back on that time, one of your first tag title shots against the Revival, now known as FTR. As a wrestling fan, what's it like watching those two and the run they're currently on as the best tag team in all of pro wrestling?
It's awesome to see, man. And it's something that I could have told you a long, long time ago. FTR, Revival, whatever you want to call them, they've been one of the best tag teams for a very, 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 very long time. And me and Tommaso were lucky enough to have that series with them where we did take over Brooklyn, then take over Toronto, and have those tag team matches with those two guys. Because for my money, they are the best tag team in the world currently. And I said for a very, very long time, and I still do believe this, FTR and Young Bucks are just once in a generation tag teams. And we're very lucky to be living in a generation where we get to watch them perform.
We are talking with Johnny Gargano. You can check him out with StarCast 5 in Nashville, July 29th, 30th, 31st. What's next with Johnny Gargano will be on Sunday, 2:15 p.m. Central. All this information can be found at StarCast.com, and all of StarCast programming can be ordered on Fight TV. So going back, Johnny, to you were talking about, hey, you're not over that first pick overall. But who are some of the guys that you look to for inspiration? Who are the guys you looked up to when you were getting into this business?
Oh, I mean, obvious answer. And everyone, I think a lot of people from my generation have this answer. Shawn Michaels was a guy that I loved growing up. He was my hero growing up. and the opportunity that I not only got to work side by side with him, but form a friendship with him and a relationship that we still have to this day, where I can still text him and, we can chat here and there and see how each other are doing. I get a chance to meet, I brought Quill to meet Sean, to meet his grandpa, Sean, at the Performance Center a couple months back. And the fact
wait. Not Uncle Sean, Grandpa Sean?
Grandpa Sean, yeah, because his grandpa, not my grandpa.
Yeah.
He's like my wrestling dad. So he's Quill's grandpa.
I see.
Yeah, not my grandpa. He's my wrestling dad. Then obviously Sean and Hunter as well. Sean and Hunter, for my money, are two of the absolute best minds in wrestling. And the fact that I got to work side by side with both of those guys and learn so much from both of those guys and still have a relationship with D-Generation X today is still amazing to me. They're they text me happy Father's Day. I'm very, very lucky to have that with those two guys, because they're just genuinely great people as well. So Sean, Hunter, Chris Jericho was a guy that I loved growing up a lot. He was my number 2, Kurt Angle. So a lot of guys that I rarely had I really enjoyed, as I can say, the work rate guys. If you can go in the ring, there's no wonder my style, but the smaller work rate guys always held a special place in my heart. So Sean, Jericho, and Kurt were always 3 guys that I always liked a lot.
Johnny, on Wednesday nights, it was busy for wrestling fans to be watching AEW NXT and trying to figure out which show was best and what you DVR. How much was what AEW was doing affecting the NXT product from week to week?
It didn't affect any of us, honestly. We all just put our heads down and did our job. We have friends over there. I still have friends there. We had friends, especially at that time, on both sides. So it wasn't something we were they're doing this, we got to do that. It was just something hey, we're in a really cool time in professional wrestling where there's 2 shows on television. Let's try to make the best of this and put out the best wrestling show possible. And I think it's very lucky for wrestling fans that there was just good wrestling on TV, because for a long time, there was only 2 shows on, but now there's so many shows on and so many options. So we're literally living in a golden age where there's so much to pick from.
When you look back on that, how crazy is it for you being in the middle of it, seeing these programs build and seeing so many guys and girls that you worked with for so long?
It's awesome. It's one of my favorite things, the fact that a lot of these guys that I was in the locker room with, I've known them for, I'm going to say 10 years at that point. We used to wrestle in VFW halls in front of 10 people, not even just in AEW, but NXT as well. Me and Adam Cole wrestled many times in front of 50 people at random indie shows. And now we're selling out and having one of the biggest gates, the biggest gate in NXT history at Barclays Center. Well over $1 million gate me and Adam Cole made at TakeOver New York. And literally 8 years earlier, we were wrestling in front of 50 people in middle of nowhere in California. So it's really cool to be in a locker room with those guys and look around and be man, I can't believe this all happened. I can't believe we made this possible, but it's the coolest thing.
So when you look at the new direction of NXT, as a wrestling fan, what do you feel about it? Because obviously, you just mentioned so many wrestling fans love that time, the black and gold of NXT, and now they've gone to NXT 2.0. So when you look at that, how do you compare and contrast the two?
I don't think you can compare them. Honestly, I think it's a completely different product. They're doing something completely new, something completely different than what the black and gold era was, which, I totally understand it. They went to more of a strictly developmental program, which I totally get. They're building people for the future, and they have a lot of great gems there and a lot of people that should turn out and hopefully become superstars one day. I've been very on record of saying guys like Braun Breaker, Cora Jade, Roxanne as well. A lot of those guys on that show, Cora Jade and Roxanne in general, have a special place in my heart, because they're kind of just like me. They were fans growing up that dreamed of wrestling for WWE, dreamed of doing this, and now those 2 girls are getting their opportunity to go out there and live their dream and show their passion to the world and make things happen. So I'm super happy to see those 2 get an opportunity. Obviously, Indy Hartwell's still there. She's my daughter, and I think the world of her. I think she is a superstar in every sense of the word. I think she just needs an opportunity, and she's going to shock the world. Like I said, she's someone that you turn the light on, and she will man, she will be entertaining. She is not just entertaining in the ring, but as we've seen with the wedding and things like that, I think Indy is such an untapped diamond that they haven't tapped into yet. But then I said like Braun Breaker, I think he is a stud as well, but everyone knows that. So I still watch the product. Like I still watch everything. I'm a wrestling fan, so I just enjoy things as they come.
Johnny, one of the reasons why I was so attracted to the NXT product when you were a part of it is because it was heavy on the wrestling and light on the entertainment. You talk about work rate. It was just something that was just different for the business, especially under the WWE banner. Could you tell us, you mentioned Triple H. I would really like for you to dig in a little bit more and tell us about working with Triple H and what that was like, because I think a lot of us wrestling fans just gave Triple H the benefit of the doubt and said, boy, he wants to do something completely different with the business.
Yeah, I mean Triple H, you know, he's a wrestler, you know. I guess as simple as I can put it. He's a wrestler. So he enjoys the things that he enjoys and he loves great matches. And we were very lucky that I was very lucky, I should say, that I was able to be given that opportunity to go out there with, say, an Andrade and have like a 30-minute barn burner match. I think at the time, me and Andrade at Takeover Philadelphia, when we did it, was like the longest match on pay-per-view in years, and people were floored by that. But like I said, that doesn't happen without Triple H. Triple H is such a visionary, and he's someone that you don't really appreciate his genius until you're working side by side with him, especially if you're a wrestler. You don't appreciate someone's mind until you're right there next to him and they take your idea and they make it bigger and they make it better, and you kind of see how their thought process works. That's something I have to experience many, many times with Hunter. And a lot too, like I know like him and Sean get a lot of flack for stuff they did in the past, but I can tell you like Hunter and Sean don't realize they're Hunter and Sean. And a lot of times I have to keep telling them, like, man, do you guys realize you're Triple H and Shawn Michaels? Because you should, because you absolutely are legends, but they treat you like just normal people. They treat you like you're an equal. And like I said, that's the best thing I can say about NXT at the time as well, and the Black and Gold brand, is we really were like a family of just people going out there that love wrestling and making the best of what we got.
You talk about that work rate. How fulfilling is it, and almost where you step back and pat yourself on the back, that your kitchen table, yourself, your wife, Candice LeRae, you guys are such a hot commodity in wrestling, and everyone wants to see you back in the ring. Anytime there's any sort of mystery, you guys are a part of it. How fulfilling is that for you guys?
It's cool, you know, and I always enjoyed wrestling. I'm very on record. I'm a wrestling fan. I enjoyed wrestling a lot during the Attitude Era as well, when I guess the internet wasn't as wise and there was a lot of uncertainty. You never knew who was showing up where and when and what was going to happen. So anything I can do to try to bring a little bit of that uncertainty to the table and hopefully bring about a cool surprise for people one day, I'm going to try to protect that as much as I can. But again, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for wrestling fans. I wouldn't be, and it's scary. You got to think about it too. It's a scary thought process of like, I have this guaranteed contract with WWE I could take for a lot of money, and I can come back and I could keep doing what I'm doing. But I just knew that with the baby on the way, I didn't want to have anyone else be in control of my time, because I'm really only gonna get one shot at this. Me and Candice only plan on having one kid. So I want to be there and try to experience everything I can with Quill for his first year before I do anything else. Because I think I would regret if I missed his first words or if I missed his first steps, if I was out wrestling out of a town somewhere. So I'm very lucky that fans do want to see me, and it is scary to step away because you think you're going to be forgotten. So it is a nice reminder sometimes, every time I trend on Twitter or my name pops up, that I haven't been forgotten yet.
Well, I'm sure you're going to address more of that. Again, what's next is going to be with Johnny Gargano is going to be a part of StarCast 5 in Nashville. So I'm not going to ask you what's next, but I'm going to ask you, what are some dream matches that you still have left, opponents that you want to face?
Okay, so are we talking people that I've never wrestled before?
Yes.
Okay, obviously. So I wrestled a lot of guys. I have a list of guys that I wrestled on the indies that I haven't wrestled yet on a big stage. So I'll get through that list first. Obviously, there's the Bryan Danielson, there's the AJ Styles, there's the Seth Rollins. I've wrestled those guys on smaller indies, but I never wrestled them on a bigger stage. And then when you talk about guys that I haven't had the chance to get in the ring with, one name in particular sticks out in my head, and I mean, it's an obvious one. Me and Kenny Omega. I've never wrestled Kenny Omega, and I especially remember when I wrestled in 2018 when I went on that crazy takeover run. That run would always be like Johnny's on a different level, him and Kenny, and they always say like Johnny and Kenny, and I always wondered what would happen if me and him got in the ring together. So Kenny Omega is definitely a dream match of mine. But also you look at other guys on the other side, like Edge. I've never wrestled Edge. I've never wrestled Randy Orton. Guys that I grew up watching that I'd love to get a chance to get in the ring with, but also like CM Punk. Like there's like benefits both places. So that's kind of where my dilemma in my head's at right now. Is there's matches in both places, which is a good thing to have. But there's a lot of guys that also that maybe aren't dream matches necessarily in the big match sense, but also like guys that I watched. And I'm like, that could be a fun match one day. So I think wrestling is incredibly lucky that there's so much talent right now. There's a lot of different places that I can go and a lot of different opponents I still have left to get in the ring with. And it's I'm very lucky too that I'm only 34. Someone once told me, or I've heard many times, wrestlers enter their prime from 35 to 42. So I could potentially be entering my prime right now. I'll tell you when I come back, but we'll see what happens.
Well, there's always dream matches, but there's always more to do in the business too, Johnny. Is there something in wrestling that you haven't accomplished that you'd like to before you're completely done?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is I never got a chance to wrestle WrestleMania. That was always something on my bucket list, and it still is on my bucket list. Still something in the back of my mind that I haven't done yet. So getting a chance to wrestle at a WrestleMania is something I want to accomplish. But also, any of those titles over there, I know it's a usual answer for a lot of guys my size and from my era, but the Intercontinental title, especially like the white strap Intercontinental title that I used to love, that is always something that has been in the back of my mind as well that I'd love to have one day. But like I said, I'm far from done and I got a lot of time left.
When you look at that sort of transition of those companies, how does something like a Cody Rhodes going back to WWE, how does something like that, affect you personally?
I don't know if it affects me. Like, it's nice to see that guys, and I think that is the natural progression of all this stuff is, guys can hop from company to company. And I think that is necessary. I think and I always say wrestling is kind of like a TV show. If you watch the same TV show every single week and the same characters doing the same thing in the same place for very, very long, you kind of get stale, you get stagnant and like that. So like the old territory days, I think it's time after a while for someone to maybe hop to a different territory. There's fresh matchups, a fresh coat of paint. And that was obviously in my head too when my contract was coming up with NXT, and WWE in general was where I wanted to kind of have a refresh. And I felt like people, knock on wood, I've been very, very lucky to where I haven't had any major injuries. So I've been on television in some way, shape, or form for about 5 or 6 years, uninterrupted. So I felt like it was a good time to kind of step away, refresh, and let people miss you for a little bit. Because if people don't have a chance to miss you, they won't miss you. So it is a gamble, but it's something that I'm thankful I did.
So then also, because for the sake of doing something different, we just saw Forbidden Door with AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. We debated on this show. The show was great, and we knew the show was going to be great, but was it worth AEW kind of pausing some of the things they were doing to try to build some of those matches? So as a wrestling fan, what did you think of the build-up, and what did you think of Forbidden Door?
So I enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoyed any of the cross-promotional things. I think it's a fun show to do, especially when you have the opportunity to do it. Like I said, like any of those dream matches, you would be if you get a chance to do a AEW and New Japan show, you do it. It's not like they should put things on hold, but like if that opportunity arises, you need to do it because there's so many potential dream matches, and the working relationship they have is great. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as a wrestling fan. Like I said, I watch everything though, so I don't view things through like why did they do this or what they should have done this or they did this. I just try to enjoy everything. I think you enjoy life a lot more when you kind of just sit back and take things as they come.
Can you believe that the divorce between Baker Mayfield and the Browns is over? Can you believe that?
So, like I said, I'm a very notable Browns fan, and I love Baker. Any interaction I've had with Baker, Baker's been the man. He's been super cool to me, super cool to Candace. But I do understand where the Browns are going. We'll see how things end up there. I'll always be a Browns fan, but I don't want to say I wish Baker well in his future endeavors, because I'm not going to say that. I do wish Baker well wherever he ends up. I hope he has I hope he goes to a Super Bowl. I hope he wins a Super Bowl. I hope he proves a lot of people wrong, because he's always been a top-notch dude to me.
Outside of wrestling, anyone who follows you on Twitter at Johnny Gargano, you're a big collector. We see it behind you. What's that one sort of nice possession that's sort of the top of your list? You say, wow, I actually do have this in my possession.
So I'm really into graded comic books, which is kind of a nerdy thing to have. But I have an issue of Spider-Man 300 graded like a 9.4 in my collection, which is like my grail comic book item right now. I'm a big Black Suit Spider-Man fan. And my other new thing I'm on is like graded Pokemon cards, which is a different rabbit hole. But like I said, any nerdy thing, as you can see with everything around me, I'm all about.
So when it comes to comic books, and so and maybe you can make fun of me. I love the Marvel movies. I'm a big fan of the MCU. I watch all the stuff.
Yeah.
But because my wife loves Harry Potter, but won't watch certain Harry Potter movies because she's like, oh, the book is so totally different and so much better. So when you watch the MCU and being such a comic book fan, is there a disconnect there too?
Not for me at all. No, I realize it's a completely different thing. Like it's a different interpretation of something. Like I said, there's different interpretations of comic books forever. Like everyone has a different interpretation of a character. So the MCU is kind of its own thing. But I love the MCU. Like MCU is top notch to me. I'm going to see Thor: Love and Thunder tomorrow. So trust me, I'm all about the MCU. Me and Candace go. We try to go with the baby now. We go to every opening night of an MCU movie, because for me that's as close to a wrestling fan feeling as I'm gonna get, being in like a packed theater with all these other nerds and people just nerding out for a show. Like I feel like that is the closest to a wrestling environment I'm gonna get, because as a wrestler I can't disconnect myself from like that, but as an MCU fan I definitely can.
Harry Potter, who he ever beat?
True.
Seriously.
Johnny, we certainly appreciate the time. Again, really looking forward to seeing you again. StarCast 5's in Nashville, the 29th, 30th, 31st of July. What's next with Johnny Gargano is going to be Sunday, 2:15 p.m. Central. All that info can be found at StarCast.com, and all of StarCast programming can be ordered on Fight TV. Johnny, thank you so much for the time and joining GKW.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you very much.
Again, the big thing coming out of that interview, guys, was him talking about his love of WWE, growing up talking about WrestleMania, being the Intercontinental Champion. And he was the hottest free agent at the time. And whenever he decided to come back, he could choose pretty much wherever he wanted to go. And it was no shock to at least the people who listen to this show that he chose WWE.
Yeah, ultimately we broke the news. That's what Gabe is telling you. We broke the news. He came on. We asked him what did he want to do? What did he want to accomplish? I think he was cool being a free agent. As a matter of fact, he tells the story. He's in Chicago doing a meet and greet, and then just flew back home to Cleveland, and people just assumed, are you going to WWE? Sure. But he gave us, I thought, bro, it's a little bit of an insight of saying, you know what, I haven't been in a WrestleMania. I want to be able to do these things. You knew, especially now that Triple H is in charge, that he's back with his guy, Paul Levesque.
Yeah, when that ended, the three of us all looked at each other like, all right, well, he's going back to WWE. Got it. And from a wrestling standpoint, it's like, I guess we should stop fantasy booking him in AEW, because it was so obvious, like Gabe mentioned, WrestleMania, the white Intercontinental title, and also just sort of his acceptance of I'm not going to main event WrestleMania. I want to be one of those guys fighting for the IC title. Him sort of accepting that. That night, we're like, all right, well, we'll see him back on Mondays at one point.
As we began the run-up to All Out in September, we had an opportunity to catch up with one of the members of the Jericho Appreciation Society. Of course, Daddy Magic, he of sports entertainers. Just so much fun talking with Daddy Magic, and we started to talk about that catchphrase that he has for the Jericho Appreciation Society.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. And you kind of nailed that, actually. You kind of sports entertainers. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I love when people on I like when people on Twitter they spell it out phonetically, like the way that I say it. It's really something.
Well, I think
Well,
part of that is two.
Yeah.
I think part of that is two of us are from the Midwest, so we already speak like that. We already
right?
on sports entertainment. One's from
And
Wisconsin, I'm from Chicago, so we already talk like that.
Well done, guys. Well done.
This has to be pretty fun for you with the Jericho Appreciation Society. But where does the moniker Daddy Magic come from? Because I think you've just taken it and run with it.
Yeah. So, yeah, and just to say, being part of in a team with Jericho has been unbelievable, really surreal. But the Daddy Magic name on the independents, I went by Big Magic. That was kind of like a nickname that I used, and it always stuck with me. Like I don't know if I don't think we used email to get on this thing, but my email is bigmagic3.0@gmail.com. Oh boy, I just put that out to everybody. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to pay for that. So I went by Big Magic, and when we initially started talking about getting together, I told Chris, I was like, hey, because he says if you want to try anything new, like with your look or anything of that nature, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to go for it. So I just straight up told him, I go, hey, I'd like to be Big Magic. And he goes, okay, cool. And then 2 days later, he goes, yeah, big, we have Jake. He's the big guy. Like, it doesn't really make sense for you to be the big guy in the team. So, like, what else do you want to use? And I don't know, we did this episode of Talk is Jericho a couple months ago, before the last pay-per-view, actually. And him and I were talking, and I just listed off a bunch of other ridiculous names that I wanted to use. And ended up landing on Daddy Magic. That's what we ended up going with. And that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Daddy Magic, how much fun are you having right now, being part of AEW, being in your spot right now in AEW? How much fun are you having?
I mean, it's the time of my life. Honest to God, the last year of my life, guys, has been so unbelievable. From going to like being released from WWE in June of last year to August, being picked up with AEW. My son was born. We're wrestling Sting, fighting CM Punk. I don't know what is going on, guys. It's to bring it around, and the end of the winter to get in this thing with Jericho has been. It's been a dream come true, honestly, guys. Like I really don't know what else to say about it. And to the spotlight that has been shone upon us because we are in this group, it's like nothing we've ever experienced before.
So sort of along those lines, you're with someone at Jericho we've talked about on this show, like the king of reinvention, the way that guy's gone through things. What have you learned from him and sort of reinventing yourself these past few months?
So I get to watch Jericho, right? The way he carries himself in the back, the way he handles his business, the way he presents himself as a performer. And I'm just constantly learning. Like I try to model myself after him. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I learned really from being with him is you can do no wrong. Like just if there's a risk that you want to take, just can I curse? Because I'm about to curse. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely.
Go for it.
Just fucking take the risk. Well, you're not going to lose anything. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like Chris will throw anything against the wall, and if it sticks, it sticks, and he runs with it like the wizard thing. And if it doesn't, then fuck it, we're out. You know, just leave it there. You know, like that's really I think the one thing that I've learned. And you can never be. I was going to say you can never be too ridiculous, but I think maybe you can be, but we find that line, you know, like the only way to find the line is to cross it.
So being able to do all this, what's it meant to you to be able to do it with Angelo and be able to kind of, I mean, you guys as a tag team go back so long.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we've met in the, I think at 8 years old in the 3rd grade. So I don't like a lot of people don't know that, but we've been friends or wrestling friends our entire lives. You know, and we trained together, and then we became a team together, obviously, and traveled up and down the roads together. So all the highs and all the lows, we experienced them together. There's nobody on this planet who knows what I've been through, who has the exact same experience that he does, you know, that I do. It matches, you know, perfectly. So yeah, it's been awesome. You know what I mean? It's really been great.
Matt, are there wrestlers that you grew up watching that you modeled yourself after? Guys you watching the TV and said, boy, you know, at one point in time, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you want to go way back, I grew up a child of the 80s, I guess, in the early 90s. I mean, Hulk Hogan, loved Hulk Hogan growing up. Who didn't, right? I mean, I don't know. Did you guys? You must have.
course.
Everybody
No?
did.
Right.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody
So-
said their prayers. Everybody had their vitamins.
Thank
it's
you.
Just, you had to.
Yeah. Do you think by vitamins he meant steroids?
Yeah, vitamin S is a steroid. Is a vitamin. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Take your testosterone, kids. I digress. I love Hulk. Anyway, so maybe we cut that out. I don't know. So and then Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, obviously being Canadian. I love him. Who made Pink more cool than Bret? I know the Revival tries, Punk tries. Yeah, you're not there, boys. Bret looked freaking great in Pink. The hair and everything, and his style is so realistic. And people rag on Bret, I think, sometimes for not being charismatic, or maybe in the early half of his career. But I don't see it, man. That guy was cool to me. And as I got a little older, I'm lucky. I think you guys are too. We're probably around the same age. Like as we hit like adolescence, like wrestling, we kind of grew into wrestling and like the Attitude Era and that, when you're 13, 14, 15 years old. So Chris in 98, Chris Jericho, who was cooler than Chris Jericho? And when I started my career, I really tried to emulate him, right? Because when you're starting out, you don't know nothing. So all you're going to do, you're going to kind of choose what you like and basically imitate it, and early on, there was a lot of imitating Chris Jericho in both of mine and Angelo's performances. And those are pretty much my heaviest influences, I'd say. Bret, Shawn, and Chris.
When you talk about making that move, you said, you're really a free agent for about a month. What was it like just mindset-wise that month of knowing like, hey, you reached that pinnacle, you got the WWE, and then not knowing what was next?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough because my wife was 7-8 months pregnant at the time. And you don't know, like we were supposed to leave the country to go back to Canada. So we're like, do we stay? Do we go? Do we stay? I don't know if it's illegal. I have no idea, guys. Like I have no idea. And luckily, like we worked things out with AEW to where we didn't have to leave, and their lawyers got on us. And that's initially how the deal got started. They were going to help us get our visas, and then they ended up giving us a match. And then one thing led to another. And then we signed per appearance deals, and then we signed real contracts. And now, anyway, things are great. But yeah, that month, I want to say, we went like literally because we had a 30-day non-compete, right? So we were still getting paid for 30 days from the time they let us know that we were being cut. And from the end of that 30 days to the time that we started with AEW, I think was 8 days, 7 to 9 days, like really a short amount of time. We are so fortunate that things worked out the way that they did for us. Very blessed, lucky.
Matt, I before I ask this next question, I want you to know that this comes from a place of love because I absolutely love what you're doing. But what the hell are you doing when you're not talking during promos and you're on television?
Like, what do you mean? In my spare time? What do you want to know?
Well, no, like you're looking at the camera. I don't know if you're trying to say words. If you're like I cannot look away, and I feel bad for Angelo because I start tuning him out. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I wish I had the answer for you. I'm just doing the thing. That's it.
Who are you talking to? Are you talking to us?
I'm talking.
I don't see anybody else except you. We know you're saying something, but you're saying it to Daddy Magic fans, and I don't know what you're saying. What are you saying to us?
Maybe I had more to say, and Angelo just cut me off because he's sick of my fucking talking. And I was just like, I'm just finishing what I want to say. Yeah, no, I don't know, man. Just trying to entertain, I guess. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't know anything else. We just are watching you because we feel like it's subliminal. You're saying something to us, only us, and we don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you to buy the T-shirt. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Right. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of single guys, Daddy Magic, that go to AEW events. There's a lot of wrestling fans that don't have a girlfriend, but they love AEW. I would like for you to be able to give some advice to some of the young people out there on how they could be able to just get a taste.
Like what? Like dating advice?
Yes. And how can single guys get a taste?
Yeah. So, and for all the young gentlemen out there, never I don't know how this is going to come off, but never chase the ladies. Okay, let them come to you, and if you feel, all right, I hope there's no women listening to this, but if you feel like there's an interest level there, maybe you ignore them just a bit to make them want a little more. You understand what I'm saying? That's all. Just play hard to get. You play the game, guys. Be smart. Also, just be cool. Just be cool. That's the best advice I could give to anybody. I give that to my students, my wrestling students. Is like, oh, how do I act in the locker room? Like if they're going to be extras or something. Guys, just be cool. Just let people like you. Just be cool.
Gabe opened with it. I don't do it as well as him, the sports entertainers. How did that come to be? Because you took Judas, which was one of the most over entrances in the company, and you enhanced it. You made it better. How did that come to be?
That was so those old WWF like the what the world is watching, like that stuff. You know what I'm talking about? And that's all it is. It just comes from that. And I believe the initial idea was for all of us to take a turn saying it every week, but Chris just loved the way that I do it, and it just stayed that way. Yeah.
So you've also now you've been dabbling in commentary. How did the idea for you to do commentary because here's the problem, man.
Please tell me the problem.
Well, the problem is there's a lot of wrestling that we need to watch for this show.
Yeah.
So Elevation kind of gets pushed to the back. But from some of the highlights I keep seeing on social media of your commentary, I'm probably going to have to tune into Elevation now.
How it came about. So back in June, Blood and Guts, I don't know if you guys remember, I ended up tearing my my rotator cuff and my labrum. So I'm out for a period of time here. And a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, I'm coming to TV every week. I'm not planning any matches. I'm not doing much of anything. So I got down late. I ended up talking to Tony Schiavone. He's like, yeah, get on. Let's put you on commentary. You know what I mean? I'll run it by TK and we'll see what he says. And TK loved the idea. And then sure enough, I went out there one week and it seemed to be a big hit. People liked it. Twitter loved it, And Tony Schiavone was just like, yeah, you just stay out there now until somebody tells you not to. So I guess my job, and it's an opportunity to learn another side of the business. And honestly, it's been an absolute blast. I feel like I could say anything out there, and I got Excalibur who's going to cover my ass. It's so much fun, guys. And yes, please watch it. Please put it on your list and watch it.
It's been a lot of conversation about what's going on behind the scenes at AEW, Matt. Tell us, what do you think the state of AEW is right now?
It's funny you say that. I was thinking about it. Like, I was talking with somebody yesterday, and I go, I love when I look forward to Thursday when I get to go online when I get home and find out all about what's been going on in the locker room, because I don't see it and I don't feel it. I don't know if I'm just in my little Jericho bubble and I don't know what's going on, but I don't feel any tension or any bad vibes or anything like that. And I know it sounds like I'm being a big time company guy here, and maybe I am, but like I don't know. Everybody gets along. I love it. I love having CM Punk around. You know what I mean? We're always talking, having a good time. We were both in the rehab, the medical room the other day, and we're just laughing, having a great time. He's icing his foot. I'm working on my shoulder. Punk's a great guy, man. I don't know. I love it. I love our locker room.
You mentioned getting to work with Punk, Sting, Jericho. Who are some of the guys that, are still on that bucket list of yourself and Angela? You say, I want to work with those guys one day.
Yeah, how about FTR? Put them on that list, top of the list. I'd say the Young Bucks. We've worked both those teams before. There was a WrestleMania Access event, like they were taping NXT, and Angelo and I, we were just extras, and we ended up working with the Revival. And it's something, guys. If you want to go look up that match, if you can, it's good. Some good stuff. I won't spoil it for you guys, but look it up. It's a good time. And the Young Bucks, we worked with them a bunch at Chikara. I'd love to work with them on a national platform. That'd be tremendous. What about some legends? Who else do we got in there? Sting, Punk, we've worked with. Jericho, we've worked with, obviously. Brian, we've done it. Like, my God, if you think about the year we've had, like it's unbelievable. It's really like I could have never imagined the year that we just had. I don't know. I really don't know who's left on as far as legends go. Give me Sting and Darby again. I would love to have another match with Sting and Darby, but this time where Angelo and I are kind of leveled up a little bit in the eyes of the people. And I think that would be fantastic. Give us like a lengthy program that ends in a pay-per-view match with those guys, please. I would love it.
So you brought up Blood and Guts earlier. Like,
Yes,
what
sir.
do you have to do mentally to get yourself ready for that match? Because you know it's going to be brutal, and unfortunately, you did suffer the injury.
Yeah, you do know, and you just accept it. I think there's just a level of acceptance that happens where you're just like, well, you know, whatever happens here is gonna happen, and the cards they fall where they may, you know, like, and that's pretty much it. To try to get a good stretch, you know, to warm up, which I guess I didn't stretch my warm up my shoulders enough, you know. Obviously, I could have done some band workouts, I guess, before. But the thing about those matches too, they're so, especially the Blood and Guts one. We're so many people in that match that it takes a long time to put it together. So maybe you don't get to warm up as you normally would, you know, and that is something that comes into play too. It's really something. It was a hell of an experience, you know, really, really was. The same thing with the Anarchy in the Arena match. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Don't forget AEW Rampage will be on Friday, and All Out will be on Sunday from the
Hell
Now
yeah.
Arena Hoffman Estates. You can watch it on Bleacher Report. Check it out on pay-per-view from Bleacher Report. But check out AEW All Out. Is there something, Matt, in your career that you'd love to accomplish before you're done? Before you're done with wrestling, is something say, man, I'd really like to be able to check off that bucket list?
That is a good question. And I would love to have a pay-per-view tag team title match. That is something I'd love. I'd love to win those tag team titles. I think, yeah, but there's so much, like, that's not all I want to accomplish. There's obviously more. You know what I mean? Would I like to do my own thing as a singles guy? Maybe. You know, maybe I'd like to explore that at some point. But who knows? You know, who knows? I want to make as much money as humanly possible. That's what I want to do, guys. I know that's a boring answer, but at this point in my life, that is what I want to do.
As a wrestling fan, with All Out being this weekend, what are you most looking forward to Sunday night in Chicago?
So I just saw, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Acclaim are wrestling for the tag titles against us, against Swerve and Keith Lee there. I'm very interested in that match. I want to see how those two guys do in that spot against those guys. Are they going to level up? How's it going to go down? You know, that really intrigued me, and I'm very excited for both of them. And I can't wait to hear Max Caster's his rap. What is he going to say? You know, that's what I want to know. What's he going to say about Chicago? What's he going to say about being on pay-per-view or Keith Lee and Swerve? You know, that's what I want to know.
But we appreciate it. He was a lot of fun. You can tell he's just having the time of his life in AEW, and he just finds himself in this unique spot where he gets to have fun with a buddy of his in Cool Hand that they've been together for a long time, but they also now get to learn from Chris Jericho, who's the leader of the faction they're currently in.
I mean, he could be from Canada. He could be from Wisconsin. He could be from Chicago with that accent. It's amazing how much fun he had. And he's sitting in the car, you know, with a half shirt on, just having a good time talking to us. You know, he never slipped out of character, like, because I think that, bro, that's who he is. The way he's able to speak his mind. There's some things, by the way, we like to just, you know, again, we always like to bring the curtain out a little bit. There's some things that we had to edit out of that interview that he could not say. He is a PR nightmare, for sure. There's some things that he said that we had to edit out the interview, but nonetheless, we had a really good time with him.
Well, that was my big takeaway is I don't think it is a character. I think that's who that man is. Like, I think he's just that all the time. And from the minute, like, he was impressed by Gabe's accent and the way he said sports entertainer, we knew we were on a fun ride. Like, he's someone I feel like can join any week. Doesn't need to have anything going on. Like, just let him go. Let him riff. Like, the Hogan thing, like, going into the Hogan and steroids, like, how did we get here? Like, that was just sort of what he was that night.
Just a thought crossed his mind. He decided to vomit it out, and we were all the beneficiaries from it. Later in the year, late October, we had an opportunity to catch up with a WWE Hall of Famer because, of course, scissoring is popular now, so we have to talk to the guy who had the biggest pair, and that's Brutus Beefcake. And we asked him how many pairs of barber scissors the man owns now.
Oh, geez. I got a few laying around here and there for special occasions. And put some away, you know, a few years back just for a rainy day and stuff, you know.
We've gotten on good authority that you do watch AEW because of your grandson and his affinity for Jungle Boy. But we're talking about scissors. We got to start there. One of the most over things in AEW right now are scissors. Probably the most over scissors have been in pro wrestling since you. How fulfilling is it to watch scissors be over again in pro wrestling?
That's a little crazy. I don't know. You know, my grandson Gino, he's he just is in love with the business and yeah, well, my wife Missy and everything, she's a big part of it.
Sesame Daddy.
This whole deal. And, you know,
Sesame Daddy.
Jungle Boy, he's
Scissors.
yeah, I'll give you
Sesame
that.
Daddy.
Whack your head.
That's fantastic. I was not anticipating your wife yelling "Scissor me, Daddy" in the background. Wasn't prepared for that. Let's talk a little bit before we get more into Boca Raton Championship Wrestling and everything happening Sunday, November 6th. So you do have a book that's available at BrutusBeefcake.com. If fans want to buy the book, what can they expect when they open it up and read it?
Well, they can expect it. It's a G-rated book. I mean, you could read it to your kids. It's not out like sex, drugs, rock and roll, but it's a mild, funny, great stories, great road stories. You know, I mean, and not just a bunch of made up stuff. Man, it's everything that happened in my lifetime over the period of the many, many years, and it's just a fun, great book. I haven't had one person come to me and say, "Brutus, I read your book, and it sucked." It's like everybody says, "Man, that was great." I started reading it. I couldn't put it down, and when are you going to do another one? I said, "Well, we're trying to, maybe do an extra chapter and redo the cover and make it some kind of special little deal and tell maybe some WCW stuff that because we didn't really I didn't get into a lot of WCW stuff in the book, and there's still a lot to talk about."
What is it like putting together a book like that and just going down memory lane and all the different accomplishments you had in your career?
Well, it took a long time. I started on this book years and years back, and then the guy that was helping me do it passed away, and all my research, all my stuff was lost. Excuse me. And then Missy, my wife, came in contact with a guy named Kenny Casanova, and he's a ghostwriter, and we got in touch with him, and we started calling and talking. We started talking, and man, we had a lot of stuff. I mean, Missy went through for days and days trying to trim it down and pull out stuff it wasn't really appropriate. And, we don't want to get I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything. Not that kind of book. But it was a great fun book, and I'm looking forward to to getting back out on the road again and the BRCW, man. It's like an old school. It's like it reminds me of the 80s at WWF days when you had the good guys and the bad guys, and then they had characters and real just people. wasn't too much soap opera in it. It was just good stuff, and the kids could watch it, and the grandmothers liked watching it. We had a real big audience, and everybody loved it. And I think just they've shortened their audience too much now. We're trying to get the BRCW to be a real audience friendly, and everybody can bring the kids, and great stuff for the kids, and a great show.
So now as you mentioned, you are the commissioner of Boca Raton Championship Wrestling. As you've kind of reached this part of your career, as you've gotten older, did you feel it was important to kind of get back? Because you see so many of the guys of your era who do give back and want to get back into it and try to work with the younger generation. Was that important with you to try to work with the younger generation of wrestlers and help them achieve some of their dreams, as you are now doing with BRCW?
Absolutely. I think it's very important thing for the guys with the experience to do is to help try to pass along some of that experience. You know, and we're bringing in guys. We got Mark Long, the godfather of reality TV, super guy coming in. You know, and the talent we got that BRCW has is just wide ranging, and there's some great women wrestlers in there and stuff. And you know, my wife, she goes, I go as the commission, she is the delish. And you know, and Neil the heel, he does the announcing and stuff, and it's like it's a whole family, you know, family run thing, and it just has a great feel to it, you know.
We also see on your Twitter at Brutus Beefcake _ the way, you know, going to conventions and things like that. What is that like when you go to some of those conventions and you get to link up with some of the guys you shared a ring with, but now you're taking pictures and signing autographs and meeting some of the fans that you impacted?
Oh man, well, it's, you know, everything's it's just a pleasure to get out on the road and get with all the fans. And there's just such a tremendous fan base out there. It just never ceases to amaze me how many wrestling fans are still out there and still want to come out and see, you know, they love the 80s guys. You know, we're still trying to put together something with some old friends, and to go back to the Saturday morning. Nothing was better than the Saturday morning TV show, you know, the wrestling show. And I'm working with some other guys, Tommy Fierro and quite a few other people too. And we're trying to put together something like a Saturday morning show, wrestling show that's really geared for the kids and stuff, like, you know, like a, you know, kind of like not a cartoon, but, you know, just characters with personalities and gimmicks and stuff, you know, like the old Coco Beware and you know, the guys that had flashy, you know, outfits and stuff, and, you know, big personality, and doing the interviews and talking it up out there. And, you know, the Sheik, the Volkov, you know, Tito Santana, there was just a Macho Man. There was just so many different, you know, characters and so much to see and experience, you know. That's what we're hoping to do.
So you were kind of talking about, you know, some of those, the old days. What was it like for you when the WWE called you in 2019, wanting you to be in the class of 2019 for their Hall of Fame?
Well, I was like, I was beginning to think it was never going to happen. About 10 years ago, somebody called from the WWE building, because it was on my phone, the caller ID, and left a message or something about me being in the Hall of Fame. That was like 10 years ago. Everybody got all excited. Everybody was going crazy, and it turned out it was a prank call.
Oh no! Oh
yeah. So after that, I was like, man, okay. I don't know who I must have made mad or pissed off or whatever, but, you know, and then, you know, but, you know, being patient pays off. I was a patient fisherman, and, you know, when they called, they had Sports Illustrated. They wanted to have a big release to announce me, and they had the Hulkster come out, and nobody else had a presenter. They had me having a presenter, had the Hulkster do the presenting, and so I mean, my career has just been so tremendously blessed. I had a setback in 1990 with an accident. They said, "You never wrestle again, Bruce." They didn't even want me to ever drive a car again. So there were some milestones there. Had some obstacles to overcome, and you know, I got to tell you, it really changed me as a person, and, you know, made me realize, you know, how great and how much I appreciated, you know, the fans and everything. I had thousands of letters from the fans, you know, in supporting me, and, you know, hoping for me to get better and wishing me to get back to TV, and somehow I was able to do it. I mean, and, you know, my doctor said, you know, "Hey, I can't tell you not to do this, but you're crazy." You know, I said, you know me. Of course I'm crazy, you know, but that's just the rapper on the outside, Bruce Beefcake. Boom, boom, bam. You know, the Bruce Beefcake, the heel, turned into Bruce Beefcake, the babyface, and chopping people's hair off and spray paint and everything. Like I heard you guys talking about the babyface and the heel. I was the heel that turned babyface and was still a heel. They beat up everybody and cut their hair too. So it was like I had the best of both worlds going there.
We talk a lot about that with the babyface and heels. Like you sort of need that dance partner to sort of have that perfect story. Who were some of your favorite people to work with during your career?
Oh, well, Mr. Perfect, Honky Tonk Man, Rick Martel, excuse me, Rick Rude. There was just so many guys. I enjoyed wrestling like Harley Race. I mean, a guy, his background, I watched him from the time I was a kid and wrestling these hour matches, and I just never imagined in my life that I'd get a chance to wrestle him and Bobby Heenan in the corner and the manager thing and Harley Race flying over out of the ring and taking bumps out of the top rope and just making me look like $1 million. And it was just, it was just so gratifying just to have that kind of respect from a guy like Harley Race. And it's things like that I'll carry the rest of my life. I'll never forget that. And, Andre the Giant, people like that too. Had a great rapport with Andre. Did probably, I think, the best interview he ever did on a barbershop with me and Andre and stuff. And it was just a tremendous experience over, 40 something years in the business. And, I'm just happy to still be able to, be around the business and be, with the boys and stuff. Me and my wife are down there with BRCW and hanging out with Neil the Heel and Matt. I mean, these are just great people, great families. And it's very exciting.
So you bring up the barbershop. So you were there, one of the more iconic moments in the history of professional wrestling, the breakup of the Rockers with Marty Jannetty and HBK. What was that like? What was that whole scene like from your perspective? Did you think that Shawn Michaels was going to ascend to be the star that he became after the breakup of the Rockers?
I really didn't have any idea how really big he was going to be able to. He really climbed that ladder. He was handed an opportunity and he did good. I really felt a little bad for Marty there, who I liked a lot. Marty, I thought Marty kind of really got left by the wayside and maybe should have got a little better treatment there. He really kind of got ditched, and he's a great guy. He was a great talent, a great wrestler, and but that's sometimes things happen and you have to play the cards you're dealt.
We talk about the 80s and 90s wrestling, and there's almost been a rebirth. You see T-shirts, the Hogan and the Savage T-shirts just walking down the street now. For you, when you see something like that or see a generation of fans look back so fondly, what's it like when you're like, oh, that was part of that generation? I shared a locker room with those guys. What is that like for you personally?
Well, it's just gratifying, being around the 80s when we first we were rock stars. We first, MTV, VH1, BAM, where I'm on Saturday nights, main events, almost every Saturday night. I got more airtime than any WWF wrestler ever. And my numbers were so good, they just said, man, we want Brutus. We want Brutus. We want Brutus. And what an honor. What a great thing. And to be able to be looked on with as an icon, as a legend, and have been there and to be so recognized and to be so travel the world now, and people everywhere, anywhere I go, always they recognize me and they always have something nice to say, and it's just a tremendous feeling.
I feel like it's the 80s right now.
Fair.
Well, so in the 80s is obviously, as you mentioned, there's still so many fans of the 80s wrestling that come out and want to see you and some of the people that you worked with. So when you take a look at right now professional wrestling, what would you say the state of professional wrestling in 2022 is?
Well, it's a lot different. It's changed a lot. You got AEW, Chris Jericho. These guys they're really working hard to try to change that little craziness tone that kind of wrestler kind of got off track, I think, a little bit. They're working hard to try to bring more wrestling back to the wrestling show and everything. And it's the nature of our business. It changes, and it doesn't always change for the better. So that's why it's hard. That's why it's good for the guys to work hard to try to change it in good ways to keep those fans and not turn the fans off and push them away, but to keep them coming wanting more.
We see a lot in the ring now, second, third generation, the Charlotte Flairs of the world. We saw the Rock's daughter make her debut this past week. As someone part of the business, what is the reaction when you see that? Like, all right, following in mom and dad's footsteps. What's that like from you?
Oh man, I have Gino, my grandson, and Lucas, my other grandson. He's a little younger, and I foresee them to become huge, big wrestling fans. Gino just loves climbing up on the couch and jumping off on his little wrestling buddy. I got him dropping the elbow and giving him the body slam and giving it a splash and everything. And, I just hope to be able to continue to be a good role model and keep, and have those great memories of them growing up.
He is the commish of Boca Raton Championship Wrestling. Sunday, November 6th. Why should people in South Florida go check you guys out for the November knockdown there in Boca Raton?
Because they should come if they want to have a great night out with the family. Neil and Matt treat their wrestlers better than any place I've ever been. I mean, they even the fans that come to the shows, they feed them and stuff at the shows. I've never seen a wrestling show that bring the fans in and actually feed them,
Sesame down, Daddy.
Sesame down, Well, it's a big compliment for me because there's nobody's trying to be. At least they're not trying to be a barber, but the scissors are just so over and so powerful that you can't hardly blame them for wanting to be able to bring them back and utilize them.
I was caught off guard in that interview when off screen Brutus's wife just yelled, "Scissor me, daddy ass." I wasn't anticipating it, didn't see it coming. A 60-year-old woman yelling the catchphrase of one of the more popular AEW wrestlers now. It was good to see what he was up to. We also got to talk about, some of the things that he's doing down in Brian's neck of the woods as the commissioner of a wrestling promotion down in Florida.
God, it's amazing. Brutus Beefcake. That's a Hall of Famer that we got a chance to hear from, which is just amazing. But I think that it's amazing. Like, he talks about scissoring, but he had like the shears. Like, I mean, it's not scissors. He had like the kind of like the shears. So I guess that qualifies as a scissoring. But yeah, at the same time, though, I mean, those are hedge clippers. They weren't scissors. But I guess I understand how he wants to latch on. It's something that's pretty special that's happening as of late in AEW. So I totally get it. Hey, latch on to those guys. Why not?
And I appreciate all the wrestling media out there seeing that vision and taking some of the quotes from that interview, talking about, you see a lot of tweets like, did I need to know Brutus's thoughts on scissoring? But we got all of that. And yes, one of those guys that's very unexpected, but a Hall of Famer. You can't pass up on that.
That's true.
Well, the man who invented it, Anthony Bowens, the man who sits there and yells, "Scissor me, daddy ass," every Wednesday on your television. We got to catch up with him around the Thanksgiving holiday, and he was another fun person to talk to. So, of course, that's where we had to start, and asking him about when he realized yelling, "Scissor me, daddy ass," might be getting over with the AEW fans.
So the scissoring thing originated as almost like a rib on me back like 2 years ago, because our hand symbol is the A with the fingers, and Caster came up from behind and did it on a dark back in the pandemic tapings, and I was like, I don't know if we can do that. They told us to not do it. They were like kind of iffy about it, and then I guess we were renegades at some point and just started doing it again, and we started to realize that I say this all the time. I was laying on the ground on one of the matches, and then I saw everyone's hands in the front row like with their fingers over the railing, and I knew we were onto something, so I really started leaning into it. And then once we started getting rolling with the Ass Boys and Daddy Ass, I was in the wheelchair because my knee was hurt, and I can't remember what show it was, but we were about 3 to 5 minutes away from going live on television. And I'm sitting there, and I was trying to think of an ending to because anytime we had the entrance with the Ass Boys, I'd get the crowd to chant that at them, but it just felt like it needed a punctuation mark at the end of it. And I was sitting there and it just kind of popped into my head and I started laughing to myself and I didn't tell anybody. I think I told Billy, I was like, I think I'm going to call you Daddy Ass. And he just smiled and went, and walked away. I was like, okay, I guess he likes it. So I went out and I said it and I came back. No one said a word to me about it. And I saw it was trending on Twitter and I realized that this is something. And the next week there was like Scissor Me signs. And then after that, I dove headfirst into it. It became a thing. We had trouble getting T-shirts at first. I think we were getting some pushback, but I kept fighting, and within a couple months, we got it, and then it became the best-selling shirt of 2022. So it's been a crazy last couple of months.
Well, sort of along those lines, what is that feeling then when, there are foam fingers and there's National Scissoring Day and you're having these conversations where I'm sure you have to keep a straight face? What are those conversations like? You're pushing this forward.
I mean, it's interesting. I get scissored in airports, bathrooms, bars, airplanes, hotels. I scissor everyone everywhere, gyms. It's fun. Like, it's caught on the Philadelphia Phillies were doing it. I saw the Cavs were doing it. Somebody told me the Phoenix Suns were doing it on the court. So it's a fun handshake. As I said on National Scissoring Day, scissoring is a sign of friendship and nothing more. If your dirty minds want to go elsewhere, go ahead. But it's a fun handshake. You got the fist pound and all these other things. Why not toss in a scissor?
So let's go back to the creation of the Acclaim, because you had some individual matches. You were wrestling for some different promotion, heavyweight championships, one famously with Drew Galloway, and you get to AEW, you get paired up with Max. Was that something that you wanted to explore tag team wrestling? You didn't want to be in a tag team, and how has that relationship with Max really obviously worked out for you?
So it came as a surprise because Max and I were singles wrestlers on the independents. Max had he was in a little group called the Shook Crew. I was doing my own thing as the 5-tool player on the independents. And we were both trying to obviously get signed somewhere. And we had offers from the other company and we were kind of trying to figure out what to do. And then Tony found out about this, flew us down to Jacksonville, unbeknownst to each other. And I happened to get on the elevator, and there was Caster, who I have known him because he trains at our sister school in Creator Pro New York in Long Island. I'm in Creator Pro New Jersey in Rahway. I think I had like a 6-way match with him at one point, but I just didn't know much about him. I just knew him from training. And I was like, oh, hey, Max, like, what's going on? What are you doing here? He goes, oh, I'm here to meet Tony. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm here to meet Tony. And then eventually we found out that we were here to meet Tony together. We were brought in. Tony laid out like, hey, I like you both. I think I've had this vision to have a tag team in AEW called The Acclaimed. I think you guys would be a good fit for it. We didn't know what it was. We just knew that, Max had been doing, Max is a rapper. He's been doing this, making music all his life. He's incorporated that into what he does in wrestling. So I knew he rapped, and I was the complete opposite of what he was doing. So we didn't know what The Acclaimed was. We had to figure that out. We went out and wrestled maybe 2 hours later against Best Friends, came back to the curtain. Tony gave the thumbs up, and we had contracts in front of us the next day. And then from there, it was just a matter of, we knew we had some sort of chemistry just from that match. It was a matter of trying to figure out, we need catchphrases, we need gear, we need a move set, we need to get to know each other on a personal basis. So it was hard to do because we're in the pandemic and we don't have a performance center. So everything that we had to try as a team and everything we need to do to gel together had to be done on dark in front of people every single week. And I think that's also the cool thing of The Acclaimed is that, most of the time you don't see, unless you have like a documentary or something, you don't see the training going on behind the scenes or like what it took to figure out what our finishing move is or what what we do together as a team on screen. But you can literally go back to day one on dark and watch every single week as we added something to our presentation, took away things, Our gear got better, our matches got better, and you can see that from day one all the way through current day as the AEW Tag Team Champions. I don't think you can do that with anybody else in professional wrestling.
Well, how fulfilling of a feeling is it then to go from that step to where you were to not even just winning the titles at Grand Slam, but All Out, and the way it sort of just spilled over? The crowd, everyone there said, okay, we want these guys to be our champs. How fulfilling of a feeling is that for you?
Oh, it's incredible. I'm extremely grateful to one, to have built up such a connection with the audience to the point where they were demanding that, they were demanding that we be elevated. And it's cool. You get to do these meet and greets and everybody wants a scissor and they thank you for getting them back into. We love hearing, hey, I was a wrestling fan forever and I kind of got out of it, but you guys brought me back. We love stuff like that. And then to go back and to watch the footage of all these insane crowd reactions. And, the second our sirens hit, if the crowd's kind of sleepy, woof, they come right up and Max drops his disses. I scream, we have arrived. I scissor daddy ass, and people enjoy it.
So what's it been like working with, Billy Gunn? He was a part of one of the most famous factions of all time. And how much has that helped you and Max being a tag team and having him along for this rise that you've been on for the last 6, 7, 8 months?
Extremely helpful. He's a huge asset to us and the company in terms of trying to figure out, strategies against our opponents. Like, we might have an idea of what we want to do to attack something, a body part or such. And he goes, no, you could do this. And he's always right. He's never the stuff he says works. So he's been a huge mentor. So it's like what we're doing on screen is pretty much reflective of what it's like off screen. He's been a huge father figure to us, and we're greatly appreciative to have him with us.
As someone in the 30s growing up during the Attitude Era, what's it like just being in that locker room then? The Billy Gunn, Captain Insano a week ago. What's it like being able to walk along the halls and just pick the brains of so many guys like that?
It's great. Like, sometimes I have to take a step back and be like, okay, well, these were all my heroes growing up, and now they're my coworkers. And it's a unlimited amount of knowledge to pick from, depending on literally anything in wrestling that you want to know or you have a question about. You can go, you go to FTR, you can go to Danielson, you can go to Jericho, you can go to Daddy Ass, you can go to Big Show, or Paul White. You can go to any of these guys, and they're so open and they're willing to share their knowledge to help the next crop of superstars continue to get better.
So you brought it up, and all those guys you can go into the locker room. What would you say? It's the obligatory question we always have to ask. What are things like inside the AEW locker room? Because, again, it just always seems like something comes up. What is it like inside the AEW locker room?
I don't that's the problem with, no offense, guys, the media sometimes. People like to throw these headlines out there, and they read one and they'll read it from another site and they'll read it for a third site, and all of a sudden they've built this perception of, oh my God, it's chaos. It's nothing like what you're reading. I really enjoy our locker room. All the stuff that I will read the dirt sheets from time to time just to see how accurate they are, and surprisingly they're not accurate, because I'm like, that never happened. So please take what you read on the internet with a grain of salt, because there are a lot of fabrications. A lot of people need clicks for their websites, so they're going to put the most dramatic headline that there is out there. Just know that all is well. The company's doing well. It's a fun place to be. That's what I really enjoy coming to work every single week. It's exciting. There hasn't been a moment where I'm like, oh, this is dreadful. Oh my God, there's so much drama. It's not like that at all.
You talk about headlines from a positive headline standpoint. You tweeted after you guys won the titles at Bowens_official, first ever AEW openly gay champion. What does that mean to you to have that representation, to say, hey, look at me as a champion on your TV every week? What does that mean to you?
It means a lot, and it's an honor, because sitting in my childhood room right now, I had a lot of terrible, a lot of great memories there, but a lot of terrible ones of sitting here just flustered and scared and upset, a lot of crying, of trying to figure out what my future would be, what it would hold. Would I be able to be a professional wrestler? Because there wasn't any LGBT representation out there that was in pro wrestling that was successful for me to go, hey, I can, be like this person and be okay. So to be that person on television every week, representing the community positively, and also as AEW Tag Team Champion, it's surreal. I wish I can go back and tell myself like, hey, it's going to be totally okay. It's going to be amazing. That would probably have solved a lot of issues. But if my presence on television every single week can help somebody not go through that, that means a whole lot to me.
So at Grand Slam, we talked a little bit about All Out and the emotions of that. What's it like going into a match at Grand Slam where the crowd response the last time you wrestled against Swerve in Our Glory was so overwhelmingly positive for you that seemingly this match had to happen at Grand Slam? You know it's going to be ending in a good way for you. How do you control your emotions heading into something like that?
Well, here's the thing. Like, you never know how things are going to go. Like, middle of the match, Max, his knee gave out on him, and that could have given us trouble. That could have cost us the match, but luckily he fought through. When we go into these situations, specifically like this, where we know we're in our home turf and we have, an arena full of 17, 18,000 people who are gunning for us, it feels like you're going into war and you have the best backing possible. It's like it's 2 versus 17,000. Or 17,002. So it's a crazy feeling. It's a rush of adrenaline. It's exciting. I'm so happy that we were able to pull out the win, especially in front of the New York crowd, in front of my friends, my family. My boyfriend came out. His family was there. And somehow through the sea of all those people, as I was choking on the confetti, actually, because I didn't know. I happened to look up, and somehow I saw my dad, throwing his hands up in the air. And that's, out of all the cool things that we've done, it's those memories that stick with me most, because he's my family, especially my dad too, has been one of my biggest supporters. So it was very cool.
You work for a company that spotlights tag team wrestling, that's elevates it essentially. Who are some of the teams you want to work with that either are in your locker room or might not be? They say, okay, this is the team I think we can really do special things with.
Well, I think the obvious answer right now is FTR, because we've been on parallel paths. We've kind of come close to each other with the 8-man tag match. You can see there's a little tension in there in that match, but then we kind of went back to our parallel paths. At some point, those paths are going to have to cross, because we're two of them. The Acclaimed are the most popular tag team pro wrestling, and then if there's anybody else up there with us, it's FTR. And truthfully, they've been number one contenders or ranked top or however long, and they still haven't got that opportunity. I welcome the opportunity for them to wrestle the Acclaimed. I know the fans do, so they are probably number one on the list. Number 2, we're going to have to at some point get back to the Young Bucks, because our very first main event, which was 10 matches in, which is probably unheard of, on Dynamite, was against the Young Bucks, and they cheated. Super kicked Rick Knox right in the face, and I think that's pretty much illegal, guys. So I think
I think you're onto something. That's I got to tell you, in professional wrestling, Anthony, I mean, people want to talk about how bad officiating is in the NFL, the NBA. Pro wrestling really needs to look into this.
Well, they should have been disqualified. And anyway, we need to get that redemption back, and I think we are a completely different team than we were back then, so the dynamic would be different, the energy would be different, way different, considering there was nobody in the audience. It was in the pandemic. So I think that is another clash that we'd love to kind of revisit. Excuse me.
Do you ever know what Max is going to say before you go out there? Does he ever run it by you, or is it always just like the rest of us, catch you completely by surprise?
Yes and no. The most I will do is we will go through, what's trending, what's going on out there in the world, because, Max loves to dive into anything that is newsworthy, whether it's politics, whether it's the other company, whether it's pop culture, everything. He hits everything. So I'll kind of give him a breakdown of what I've seen, because maybe he missed something, and then he goes off somewhere in the arena. I don't know where he goes, and he comes back and he has this rap. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to know. I want to have a natural reaction. Other times it's like, give it to me, because I'm excited to hear what he's come up with.
You talk about being back home, being in your childhood home. What is the reaction of friends and family where, family introduces you, hey, here's my son Anthony. This is what he does for a living. What's the reaction of friends and family? We're like, oh, this is the guy that scissors on national TV.
Well, I kind of have a rule with my friends and family. If they don't if they're not aware, don't bring it up. I'm very introverted in certain scenarios, which is, I guess, a shock to some people. For me, there are different aspects. There's so many different parts that make up Anthony Bowens. I am, from just a personal standpoint, I have masculine energy, I have feminine energy. I'm very quiet. I can be very loud. I can be boring sometimes. I like to relax and do nothing. Other times I want to be out moving and being social with people. So I have to unlock certain parts of me sometimes. But most of the time I'm just kind of chill. If I'm at a party, I'm usually kind of the guy on the wall, people watching. And I don't like the attention unless it's from a wrestling perspective. So it's usually, hey, I'm a bartender or something. Tell them that. I don't want to have to go through the awkwardness of, because all the attention turns to you, and then I'm like,
So what you're saying is you're not going to sit down for Thanksgiving with the championship belt around your waist or set it on the table and get its own spot. That's not happening this year. No.
No, I mean, I'll be spending Thanksgiving with my immediate close family, who I see every other month when I come back from Los Angeles. They're already in the loop of everything, so I won't have to worry about explaining anything or answering silly questions.
Well, Anthony, I just want to say thank you so much for the time, man. You've been very gracious with the time. I appreciate it. Best of luck to you and the Acclaimed. I, for one, am hoping you get that rematch with the Young Bucks. I hope you get that match with FTR. And I don't think I'm alone. I think those are matches that the AEW audience certainly want to see.
I agree, and I'm excited for them. I'm excited for you guys to tune in every week to Dynamite, every week to Rampage. Because remember, AEW doesn't stand for All Elite Wrestling. It stands for Acclaimed every Wednesday. And if you want to know more about me, head to my YouTube with my boyfriend, Michael and Anthony. Like and subscribe. We got parodies, sketch comedies, lifestyle vlogs. Head to Twitter, Instagram if you want to hear my crazy thoughts and silly photos with my personal life, my friends, the lads, Hook, Top Flight, all kinds of crazy shenanigans at Bones_official. And I can't think of any better way of ending this than, boys, throw up them scissors.
Bowens is just somebody who's, again, another fun guy to talk to. And it was surprising to find out because, he's the guy that even before he was yelling "Scissor me daddy ass," he was the one who would grab the microphone from Matt Caster and yell, wherever city there, the Acclaimed has arrived. He seems like this big personality, but actually he's a little introverted. That was interesting to see and hear him talk about.
Yeah, you could tell the difference between Anthony Bowens, the old baseball player, and the professional wrestler, because he was just, as a matter of fact, talking about what's going on in his life, being an openly gay wrestler in AEW, what that means to him, and just all of that. And so that was great. It was great to hear. I was too shy personally to be part of the interview because I'm such a big fan. So, I'm a little bit of a wallflower, as you well know. So I bowed out, but I enjoyed the conversation.
And I think when you look at the Acclaim, they are the AEW success story of 2022. Starting on Dark, starting on Elevation, getting hot, and then them sort of pivoting. I think if not for the crowd reaction, they're probably not the tag champs right now. But you had that moment where the crowd's like, no, we want these guys to be the guys. And AEW, maybe a few weeks late, but eventually took that, ran with it, and that's why they are so over right now.
And finally, we got an opportunity to catch up with a couple of WWE guys when they were right here in Milwaukee. I was disappointed to find out that they don't consider Milwaukee an A-town like I do, kind of consider it more of a C-town as Jay Hood does there. But we had an opportunity to talk to MVP and Omos, and we first started talking about how they've been able to benefit working with one another.
Well, I can start out by telling you we don't share your excitement with being here in Milwaukee. There are a lot of other places we would rather be. However, as we are businessmen, business brings us to Milwaukee, to the Pfizer Forum Arena, where we will be conducting business, the business of smashing people. And I think this partnership is working very well. Would you say so? Excuse me.
Absolutely.
Can I get some water here or something? What do we have going on here? I'm insulted right now by the lack of hospitality that we're receiving in your building here. This is very unprofessional.
Well, Jay Hood always says Milwaukee's a big town.
What we're receiving right now isn't commensurate with the honor of having the 7'3", 416-pound Nigerian giant. I'm actually appalled right now.
MVP, you're in a B town. When you come to Chicago, we'll
B,
supply
C,
you water.
C.
C
Oh,
town.
man.
Beg your pardon, C town. Chicago, A town. We'll give you all the water that you need because that's what superstars deserve. Water at the very least for the great MVP and almost. Absolutely.
And how much water do you think that this behemoth drinks on a daily basis?
I don't know. How much?
Well, ask the man. Does your mouth work?
Almost. How much water do you drink every day?
I would say about 3 to 5 gallons a day.
Wow. Wow.
All right, so for those of you that are tuning in to the viewing portion of this segment, let me give you an example of just how monstrous the dimensions of the 7'3", 416-pound Nigerian giant. Are you watching? For those of you listening, you'll just have to follow along. But for those of you watching, right now, I am going to present to you an official NFL-sized, a regulation NFL helmet in his hands. This is a regulation NFL helmet in the hands of the 7'3", 416-pound Nigerian giant.
It's very good.
That's
Roll us
frightening.
the follow-up,
Here's what
please.
that is.
What's funny? What are you laughing at?
That's
A
frightening.
massive human being.
Is this funny?
No,
Is this funny to you?
no, not at all, sir. No, sir. What makes Almost special as an athlete, the WWE MVP? When you first saw him, what was your initial reaction?
Did you go to journalism school? Is this the best question you could? The man is 7'3" tall, 416 pounds. He played in the NBA. In Nigeria, he was the #1 athletic prospect in the country. And the ancestors told his parents when he was born that he was destined to be the blessed one from Nigeria. And he is making good on that promise. He has come to fruition. He's come to the WWE and absolute trashed everyone that we put in front of him. Everyone. So much so that he has to fight 3, 4, 5 people at a time. Special? You're asking me what I saw in him? Come on, man. You're special. And you know what kind of special I'm talking about. The kind your mom tells you you're special.
Understood.
Omos, joining up with MVP, what was it when you saw him that sort of appealed to you? Say, okay, this is someone I want to align my career with.
Yeah, you guys have to come with better questions.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, this guy is the longest reigning United States champion. So his affiliation with me just makes sense. I mean, you guys should know that. Wouldn't you want to be in business with someone with the type of caliber that MVP is?
But they don't know that because they're all in business with each other. So this is their career highlight right now. So they don't understand what it is to work with somebody as special as you, or you working with someone as special as me, because they work with each other. So they don't understand it. They don't have a point of reference.
Fair point.
There, yeah.
That's true.
So what have you learned, Omos? What has MVP taught you? What are some of the things you've picked up since working with MVP?
I think we got that one wrong also.
Help them out. Help them out. They need some help. Go ahead.
Can I get some better questions? Any better questions?
All right.
What do you mean what has he taught me? Look at me. I am 7'3", 416 pounds. You cannot teach that.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no, you cannot
Well-
teach that.
No, you can't. I do want to ask about almost your family and friends. I mean, you're at the top of your game in the WWE. Everyone has goals, but you're able to achieve being in the WWE. What's the reaction from your family and friends as far as what you've been able to accomplish so far?
Talk to him about WrestleMania. Explain to him what WrestleMania is.
I mean, does he know what WrestleMania is?
Apparently not. So talk to him. Educate him. Go ahead.
Do you know what it is to make your debut at WrestleMania? To beat the New Day. Then to beat AJ Styles. Then go home and face Bobby Lashley and beat him. And he got lucky. He really did get lucky. I'm going to get him again, I promise you that. But there's nobody like me. My family expected this of me. This is nothing new to them. Like, my business partner, MVP, said, I am the blessed one. I am the anointed one. So this is nothing new. This is what is expected of me.
And we expected more from you. So can we please get some like intelligent, well thought out, in-depth questions, please? I'm begging you.
I don't know if this classifies as in depth, but MVP, your resume is very impressive, so you have that going for you. What do you still hope to accomplish before you hang it up?
I hope to accomplish one thing at this point in my career, and that is leading the Nigerian Giant to championship gold. He knows what it is to be a winner. He's been a winner his entire life. Now, he's made it to the WWE. I would say the NFL of professional wrestling, if you will, the absolute apex. No one is bigger. No one is stronger. And with my experience and his aptitude, the WWE Championship, I would say that it's an inevitability. We will get there, but it's not easy. I'm not going to discount the talents of anyone else in the WWE. You have some amazingly talented people. For example, Roman Reigns, who is the undisputed champion right now, and we're trying to get there, but intelligently, step by step. The Nigerian Giant Omos is smashing everyone in his path. And the goal, my goal, is to see him hoist the premier championship in all of sports entertainment.
So what's next on that? You want to take it step by step. What's that next step? Who can we expect Omos to be smashing on WWE television?
If you keep asking dumb questions like that, he'll be stepping on your neck and you'll be next.
Okay.
Anybody. It doesn't, look, to borrow a phrase from the great one, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, it doesn't matter. Whoever you want to put in front of the Nigerian Giant Omos, he will do what he does to everyone, just smash him.
MVP, what's the likelihood that you'll add more to your stable in 2023? You've been very successful as a manager. What does next year bring to you as far as maybe adding more?
I mean, let's be realistic. It's hard to add more when you have, one of the natural wonders of the world. However, I'm always working. I'm a business-minded individual, and I see opportunity everywhere. But my focus right now is on the Nigerian Giant Omos and making sure that he realizes and achieves the absolute pinnacle of success in the WWE.
Omos, you're in Milwaukee tonight. Giannis, the Bucks, Unfortunately, yes. They C-Town, as you guys said. What is the reaction of some of these NBA guys when you bump into them and you make them feel small?
You mean when he bumps into them and they get up off the ground?
Yes, eventually, when they stand up and have to look up to him.
I mean, I personally invited Giannis to come out tonight, but I was told that he was terrified of the violence that the Nigerian Giant would potentially bring. I mean, let's be real. He's 7'3", but 416 pounds. He's not some little skinny NBA dude running up and down the court. Those were his days a long time ago. But he's been hitting the weights, packing the muscle on, getting his size and strength together, improving his combat regimen. And I mean, let's be real. The NBA, these guys are like a bunch of fish flopping around on the court. Oh, he bumped against me. Yeah. If you have never been to a WWE event, I tell you, you should spend the money. Now, the tickets start at $20. And, if you're broke and you're poor, I understand that. But if you got your life together and you can afford to move down to the lower seats where you can actually see the sweat fly, where you can feel the impact, the amazing pyrotechnic display that, I would say the WWE spends more on the average Monday Night Raw pyrotechnic display than most of you have spent on your house. But if you come and you have that experience where you can see the sweat fly, feel the impact, I promise you it will change your life. And, unlike an NBA game, where it's pretty cool, some guys throwing a ball through a hoop, you can see literal giants tossing around bodies. And, it's a human car wreck, basically.
Yeah, it should be great. Monday Night Raw, Fiserv Forum tonight here in Milwaukee. We are blessed to have Omos and MVP, not only on our show here on GKW, but in the city of Milwaukee. Tickets start at $20 on Ticketmaster. I'm sure this isn't an era that you necessarily want to talk about MVP, but I'm curious because you carried the company through the pandemic. You carried them through the Thunderdome era. What was it like to have to carry the WWE, as you said, the NFL of professional wrestling, through a pandemic with no fans in the arena?
It was definitely a different experience because I'll be candid with you. Part of the WWE experience is the synergy that exists between the talent in the ring and the fans in the building. The louder the fans get, the more energized we become. The adrenaline starts to flow, the bumps and the bruises, the pain. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, when you got a few 250, 300-pound guys tossing each other around, people get hurt. It hurts. So you have to have a level of passion to want to put yourself through that. And when you're doing that in a building empty because no one's there, that built-in energy that the WWE universe brings, you don't have that synergy working. So at that point, you're working on pure passion because the adrenaline isn't quite flowing the same way when you don't have those people cheering and making noise. So everything hurts just a little bit more. And you have to really dig down deep to push yourself through when you're in a challenging match, which he's never been in because he beats everybody. But when you're in a challenging match, you have to dig deep, which is something that I had to do during that time. However, fortunately, we are out of the pandemic era. We are back in buildings across the country, arenas. And tonight, Fiserv Forum Arena in Milwaukee. Tickets start at $20, and you can see the wonders of the world. Seth freaking Rollins is going to take on a guy that we don't particularly care for, Bobby Lashley, for the United States Championship, #1 contendership. And, I mean, basically you got a little something for everybody. You got Bianca Belair, who's just a remarkable talent in and of herself, just incredible. I can go down the list and share the accolades of all the talent that we have tonight. But the price of admission alone is worth an opportunity to see this guy.
MVP, what would you say is the state of the company right now for WWE? Before you talk about a loyal fan base, through the pandemic you just talked about, where we are right now, for years before, people love this product. How would you describe the state of the product right now in 2022?
Absolute joy, elation, because people are thrilled to be out of the house, to be back in public, to be with other fans, cheering and enjoying the environment that comes with a WWE event. So, the spirit, the fire, the passion of the WWE universe is alive every night across the country, across the world, as we travel around delivering the WWE message. And basically that is fun, good times. We put smiles on people's faces, and you can tell by the reaction that we get every night that the people are absolutely thrilled to be out back in the arenas to enjoy what we do.
MVP, I mean, I personally would watch you indie wrestling down in South Florida at rodeos and gyms and things like that. When you look back on your career, how much are you enjoying nowadays sort of being that veteran presence in the locker room and still doing what you love?
I'm privileged and I'm honored to be able to, at this point in my career, take everything I've learned over the 20 years that I've traveled around the globe, being a champion all around the world. Now I can take all of that, all of the little things, the big things, my experiences, and I can channel that information into what is without question a future first ballot Hall of Famer. When I can take everything I've learned and I can put that information into a prospect like the Nigerian giant Omos, that gives me great joy because I know what I was able to accomplish. And if I was 7'3", 416 pounds, I would have held every record in the WWE. I would have held every championship, but I'm not. I'm only half man, half amazing. He is 100% amazing. So I can take all of my experiences, put it into him, and I can live vicariously through the Nigerian giant Omos as we conquer the WWE universe.
So it was kind of difficult to get answers out of MVP, but I certainly appreciate how he refused to break character. Like at the end, he took off the sunglasses and kind of broke some things down, but he refused to break heel MVP character for the first 2/3 of that interview.
Yeah, one thing I learned about the interview is I need to go back to journalism school. Apparently, I need some sharpening, some training, because my questions were not good enough. And then eventually, as we always do at GKW, we broke them down. It's like, you know what? You can insult us, but they thought we were just going to go away and cry. You know, like, oh, MVP doesn't like us. You know what? We just kept hitting those hard-hitting questions. We just come, and then we broke them down. Glasses off, and just like, gentlemen, I need some water, number one. But number two, let me just tell you about my days at the rodeo barn in Florida.
That's all I wanted out of that interview. When Gabe offered it, I was like, yeah, I just want to talk to him about the rodeo, seeing him wrestle these shows in the rodeo, and I'm good. I got that question in, so a success from my end.
We've had a lot of fun this year on GKW, and it gives me an outlet to talk about something that I've been very passionate about, and we've all been very passionate about in professional wrestling. So we've had a lot of fun, and I think that showed in those interviews that we played back today, our best of interviews here on GKW. So thank you, everybody, for out there, for downloading us, watching us live on the different social media platforms that you can see. We'll be back with a new live show next week. And, of course, there are going to be so many things to talk about. Wrestle Kingdom. Is Sasha Banks actually going to show up? We're going to have AEW making their debut up in the Pacific Northwest. So many great things, so many cool things to look forward to in professional wrestling in 2023 as well. Thank you for listening, and thank you for downloading